Now, just because you're busy doesn't mean you got to be stressed. I'm crazy busy right there with you, but it can be easier. Next time you're on a run, just make it more fun and listen to The Run with Manny Wilson. It's The Run with Manny Wilson podcast.
Being humble, let me get to it. That motivation music, get control of your life, don't let nobody else do it.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Run with me, Manny Wilson. Let's jump into it, man. I got some great topics in here today for you guys on March 26th, 2022. But before I jump into it, let's kick it off with news for The Run, starting with the NFL. The Kansas City Chiefs have traded Tyreek Hill to the Miami Dolphins for 5 draft picks. The Chiefs will receive a 2022 first, second, and fourth round draft pick, as well as fourth and sixth round picks in the 2023 draft. Tyreek Hill is now the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL after having a 4-year, $120 million deal, which includes $72.2 million guaranteed at the start of the NFL season. Former San Francisco 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick recently had 2 workouts with NFL receivers from the New Orleans Saints and the Seattle Seahawks. Kaepernick's trainer says there are at least 5 NFL teams that have inquired about him and his play. And moving to the WNBA, 2-time Olympian Brittany Griner was detained at an airport in Moscow for having vape cartridges that were allegedly filled with cannabis-like oil. She could potentially face a harsh penalty of 10 years in prison. According to ESPN, a former U.S. Justice Department legal resident advisor to the U.S. Embassy in Moscow said she may be held without trial for up to a year or up to 18 months. An investigation by the court was granted, and the detention of Brittany Griner was extended until May 19th of 2022. All right, and running back to the Chiefs and Dolphins trade, actually, here's a fun fact about that. The Dolphins still have 2 number 1 draft picks in next year's draft. That's absolutely insane. So they got a big, huge threat in Tyreek Hill, but they also still got their draft picks. But one thing I hear about this trade is who won the trade, man. Both teams, they just met and won this trade, and who won? On March 26, 2022, both teams still have question marks. If we're looking at the scenario at a plain sight and looking at it level-headed, both teams still have question marks. Yes, the Dolphins clearly got a little bit better, and the Chiefs may have gotten a little bit worse, but when you look at it from a level-headed perspective, they have question marks. And if you let they tell it, Chiefs' biggest question mark is Pat Mahomes. They'll tell you, oh yeah, Pat Mahomes is figured out, man. Yeah, Pat Mahomes is done, bro. I'm telling you, he's figured out. Look at the last season. Look at this. Yeah, they had him struggling last season. No. That is a lame excuse. Pat Mahomes is far from figured out. He's not figured out at all. Just because someone makes you work a little bit harder does not mean they have you figured out. If you have to re-strategize, it's only that. Just re-strategize it. You're not figured out all the way. Pat Mahomes damn near had his best season last season statistically outside of his MVP year in 2018. He had 100 more passing attempts than his MVP season, but at the same completion rate. He had his highest completion percentage in the postseason last year than what he ever had in any postseason. He threw for more attempts and completed more passes last postseason than he did when he won a Super Bowl and was Super Bowl MVP. So you can't tell me he was figured out. The only thing they figured out last season was that Pat Mahomes is really good at adjusting and that he can still adjust accordingly to any scenario that they throw at him. They still won their division. He almost went to the Super Bowl when you look at it. He was there. He played a great team, and he just so happened to lose in the conference game. But the Chiefs aren't as bad as people are making it seem. They took a big loss in Tyreek Hill, obviously, but they're in trouble. I'll be honest, they're in trouble a little bit, but it's slightly gassed up. They didn't lose Andy Reid, their great head coach. They didn't lose the offensive line. They didn't lose Travis Kelce. They didn't lose defensive guys. And most of all, again, they have Pat Mahomes. They're still effective to win ball games, even though the competition in this conference is at an all-time high. They still have a good team to win ball games. And say what you want about Pat Mahomes, but look at the year-to-year progress. We've seen this man ball out and continue to prove people wrong year after year after year. The Chiefs could not have asked for a better return on their investment drafting Pat Mahomes. And don't act like the season is starting tomorrow. The season still is a couple months away. We got some time. And I highly doubt the Chiefs are going to go into this not picking anyone else up from this free agency or this offseason. You know how many guys would love to play with a great quarterback like Pat Mahomes? Slot receivers, running backs, wide receivers. So many guys would love to play with Pat Mahomes. And I highly doubt it. I'm sure the Chiefs know that. So I highly doubt they're going to just sit on their behinds and not pick up anyone after losing Tyreek Hill. All right, and running to the Miami Dolphins because they have some question marks as well. And their biggest question mark is actually pretty accurate. It's, can Tua Tagovailoa step up and accurately be there for his team? He doesn't have many games in the NFL. He's been in the NFL for 2 years. But he has less touchdown passes in his career than some quarterbacks have in a single season. Like Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow threw for 34 touchdowns last season, and Tua only threw for 27 out of his career. So this works to his benefit and his disadvantage as well. He has the weapons, but the offensive line is bad. Another question mark. But it's going to be Tua's first fair shot at the NFL, being healthy in a full season. And also, why I say it works to his benefit is because he doesn't have much film on him. Executives and coaches aren't really going to be able to pick him apart in terms of what makes him comfortable, what makes him uncomfortable, what are his tendencies, and what kind of things can we scheme against Tua to make him turn the ball over. They don't have all of these facts and info on Tua, and it can be a good thing because even looking back at the past and seeing how that's affected other quarterbacks, when you look at Joe Burrow, he played his first full season last year and he went to the Super Bowl. Executives didn't have all the film. They didn't have all of his tendency breakers and everything that he enjoys to do while he's on the field, what makes him comfortable, uncomfortable. They didn't have all of that info. They pieced it apart as the season went on, but ultimately, that's what made them underdogs too, because people didn't think, oh, well, yeah, this second-year quarterback is going to come in and win a Super Bowl. They didn't believe that. It is kind of hard to believe. But going back to Tua, that same kind of scenario is what he's creeping up on. Obviously, he's not Joe Burrow, and they're two different type of quarterbacks with two different type of play styles. But that second year, no film, can prove your worth in the NFL. That same scenario is right there for him. And it's best to strike when the NFL hasn't figured you out yet. It's a reason why we don't see quarterbacks going to the Super Bowl back to back like we do with other sports, NBA or maybe baseball. It's a reason for that. The NFL catches on to things very, very quickly. So for Tua, this would be his best time to strike now that he has the weapons and he has a premier threat gaining Tyreek Hill. And the last thing I do want to mention before I disperse to more news is that we can't put these same expectations in play until we watch these teams play. Everyone loves to jump straight into a Super Bowl as soon as we hear this. Oh, well, you know what? The Dolphins, they got him. They got this guy. They got Tyreek Hill. They got all of these pieces. They got a new coach, everything. They're going to the Super Bowl. Oh, the Raiders got this. They're going to the Super Bowl. Oh, the Chiefs they lost him. They're not doing anything. We have to at least give the time to watch these teams prosper and watch these teams develop over the course of the season. Obviously, Tyreek Hill may not be the same exact player that he was with the Chiefs because he has a different quarterback. He has a different system. He has a different offensive line blocking for his quarterback and a different scheme. The Dolphins aren't the Chiefs. The Chiefs aren't the Dolphins. Tua isn't Mahomes, and obviously Mahomes isn't Tua. So the Dolphins are a completely different team. We got to watch and see how both of these teams are going to develop as the season goes on. And that is ultimately the biggest question mark for this entire season is how will these teams develop? All right, now let's keep it going throughout the show and let's hit you up with some more news on the run. This time we're jumping back into it with the NBA, starting with the Brooklyn Nets. Guard Kyrie Irving is expected to be cleared to play in NBA home games as of March 24th. The city of New York will amend their current vaccine mandate, allowing performers and athletes to perform from this point forward. Portland Trail Blazers Yusuf Nurkic was fined $40,000 after tossing a fan's cell phone into the stands during a heated exchange with an Indiana Pacers fan. According to Chris Haynes of Yahoo Sports, the fan yelled, "Your mom is trash and grandma's a B." The word that rhymes with snitch. That's disrespectful. You can't say stuff like that to nobody, grandma. I can't believe it. That's just disrespectful. All right, but going back to Kyrie Irving, he's only played 20 games out of the total 73 or 74 games so far. And this has people thinking, well, now that he's coming back to the Nets, how does this affect them now that they're about to go to the playoffs and it's the end of the season? And as of today, March 26, 2022, I want to tell you this is huge for the Brooklyn Nets. Now, their record right now is 38-25, sitting at 8th or 7th seed. It's possible it changes depending on when they play next, but their record right now, 38-35, 8th seed. Kyrie Irving's averaging 28 points per game. He's well rested, got fresh legs, came ready to hoop. And they're bringing back a guy who can heat up at literally any moment. This team, people forget, this team was sitting at number 1 in the conference or top 3 in the conference before they had the injuries, before Kyrie Irving couldn't play. And that didn't help at all when he couldn't play because of the vaccine mandate. Kevin Durant got hurt. That put them back behind as well. And they were playing the regular season against top teams and average teams and bad teams with mostly just role players. Now, you can't expect a team to be top 5 when they're playing without their 3-star players at that time because they had Harden too, but they were mostly playing with role players. And now with Kyrie Irving returning, they have more than enough to get it done in the playoffs. You got to understand something here. There's missing pieces. I get it. Everybody on the team is not healthy. Some people say about Ben Simmons, oh, well, he's still not there. They're going to need him if they want to win a championship. Please do not forget. Kevin Durant literally was a toenail away from beating the Bucks in Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals last year by himself. Harden was not there. Harden was on one leg. You can make the argument, oh, well, Harden was healthy, whatever. But Harden ultimately did not help at all. Kyrie Irving was hurt. It was really just Kevin Durant out there balling by himself, and he was a toenail away from winning and going to the NBA Finals. So please do not act as if him and Kyrie Irving cannot go and beat these great teams on their own with other great role players when they have additional guys. The only help Kevin Durant had during that time was Jeff Green. That was it. Now they got Seth Curry. Now they got Drummond, Blake Griffin, Goran Dragic, Patty Mills. Man, this team, the role players are great, and some of the role players have experience as well. And the 2 guys leading you are champions. They have more than enough to go ahead and advance from round to round all the way to the finals. Obviously, there's competition, but they have the competition as well. They have the team and the roster to be able to compete. It's no more heavy carrying for Kevin Durant. It was easy to beat the Nets or to control the Nets when it was just Kevin Durant playing because people are sending doubles at him. When you look at what happened, I think it was against Dallas. They played Dallas. They were just double teaming them almost every single play. And it's frustrating. But I mean, it's smart basketball because obviously if this is the only guy who can be a huge threat, I'm going to make everybody else win the game. But with Brooklyn, with them coming to the end of the season and getting ready to go to the playoffs, this is just perfect timing for them because it allows them to get those last few games to play as a full team, knowing what they can expect going into the playoffs. They have Kyrie Irving. They have Kevin Durant. They got Drummond. They got Blake Griffin. They got their guys. So now it's just, let's get these last few games in and strategize on exactly how we're going to play in the playoffs and do what we need to do and to adjust to the teams that we play. It's the Run with Manny Wilson podcast. Now, don't be selfish. You might have a friend, family member, coworker who's on the run too. So make sure they get to have the same amount of fun as you and send them this episode. It's the Run with Manny Wilson podcast.
Let me get to it. That motivation music. Get control of your